after the car she was riding in mistakenly went to the wrong address and was met with gunfire in the driveway. It happened in the town of Hebron. Kaylin Gillis, who was 20, was traveling with 3 other people Saturday night when the group made a wrong turn onto the property. The sheriff says the driver was attempting to turn the car around when the homeowner came out onto his porch and fired 2 shots. 1 round hit Gillis. The homeowner, Kevin Monahan, refused to come out for about an hour before surrendering. He faces a second-degree murder charge.
The new mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, wants to spend what she calls a record $1.3 billion next year to get unhoused people into shelter and treatment programs. When Bass was elected in November, she promised to take on Los Angeles' out-of-control homeless crisis. I'm Ed Donahue, AP News.
All right, I have you pulled up. Can I get a word from the Reverend?
Okay, Pastor, I mean, you can check if you can hear me as well. Pastor, can you hear us?
We are Chicago's Talk.
Okay, now we need to make sure that we can hear you.
Testing. CPT 820 weather update. Testing.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist.
Okay, can you hear him?
Yep. All right, we're all good to go on my end.
1, 2, 3. High in the upper 50s. Northwest winds around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. Tonight, increasing clouds and a low near 39. By Wednesday, a slight chance for showers and thunderstorms, cloudy, high of 72.
Okay,
Thursday,
can you hear him?
For showers and thunderstorms, cloudy,
Testing.
72 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Testing.
It's 34.
Hurry and shop the final days of Spring
Okay,
Fest
can you hear him?
right now. Get an additional
Yes, I can.
Okay, all right, very good.
$1,996
All right, so let's get ready to go.
And keep your low.
Yep, just doing some math real quick, and then I'll tell you when we're starting.
I appreciate that. Thank
It
you.
was $219. Now it's $199. Shop Spring Fest today because Lowe's knows spring. Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid to 426. Selection varies by location.
So how are your parents doing?
See Lowe's.com for details.
All right. Please give them my love. And you're preaching the last Sunday?
773-763-9278.
This Sunday?
Thanks to our
No, the last
sponsor,
Sunday, right?
Camp Kupagani, celebrating 15 years.
We got 4 minutes.
Kinder,
Okay,
smarter,
perfect.
and
Just let me
happier
remind me,
kids.
okay?
Give
Because I'm
the
going to try
child
and get
in
on
your
over
life a
there.
summer of empowerment
Yeah, of course.
and fun. Camp Space fills up fast. Register today at multiculturalcamp.com, and let's keep those texts coming. 773-763-9278.
The Takedown with Cliff Schechter.
Jamie Raskin, folks, cutting Republicans to the core. He's on fire. You just got to check him out.
Their big lie now has to stretch all the way over January 6th. We have to disbelieve the evidence of our own eyes, of our own ears. We saw them come and descend upon this chamber, this Congress, wounding and injuring 150 of our police officers, breaking people's noses, breaking fingers, putting people in the hospital. And already they're back on the news with big lies saying, no, it was a tourist visit. Like these real tourists up here who have to come and watch representatives in the United States Congress say there's no difference between truth and lies.
Hear more from Cliff at heartlandsignal.com and subscribe to his YouTube page.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Okay, you know what? I still need to hear the radio. Henry? Henry? Hello? Henry?
Hi, sorry, just stepped out for a moment.
No worries. Keep the radio going because I don't know if we've lost connection, okay?
Gotcha. Can you hear that?
I can hear nothing.
Better?
Yes, a little bit better. Thank you.
Okay.
Always do that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, because I'm
and a
not there
half.
with you. Otherwise, we don't know. All right?
Yeah. Apologies for that.
Okay, no worries.
We have a minute and a half before we're live.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Associated with your housing isn't just wrong, it's against the law. The Fair Housing Act protects you from harassment, including someone making unwelcome sexual advances or refusing to make repairs because you deny sexual favors. If this happens to you, you can stop it by filing a complaint with HUD.
So I called HUD and filed a complaint against my building manager. No strings attached.
Fair Housing. The law is on your side. To learn more, visit HUD.gov/fairhousing. That's HUD.gov/fairhousing. If you fear for your safety, call 911. Public service message from HUD in partnership with the National Fair Housing Alliance.
The Takedown with Cliff Schechter.
Jamie Raskin, folks, cutting Republicans to the core. He's on fire. You just got to check him out.
There was obviously an attempt to cover up what happened by destroying Secret Service texts and by trying to obviate evidence that took place on January 6th. I think one of the details that's been on my mind is when Donald Trump sat there doing nothing, not calling the Secretary of Defense, not calling the National Guard, not reaching anybody to try to respond to the worst domestic
11:30.
violence
Okay,
ever
thank you.
unleashed on the Capitol and the Vice President. When he was sitting there, I would like to know whether he was ordering hamburgers and French fries or what he was eating during that period. I'm still waiting to learn exactly what Donald Trump was eating as he watched the insurrection unfold and our officers get the hell beaten out of them by now.
Hear more from Cliff at heartlandcinema.com and subscribe to his YouTube page.
You're listening?
Stand by.
T820.
Thank you.
Because facts matter.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Getting a little feedback right now. We're going to work that out. Call us at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Want to hear from you this morning. What about this Ralph Yarl case? The 16-year-old black child who was shot by an 84-year-old white man who, I guess he was afraid of him. They said there's a racial component to this case. He was brought into the police station, according to Attorney Ben Crump, for 20 minutes. According to other press reports, just under 2 hours. Either way, he was allowed to go home that night and sleep in his bed. So I want to know what your thoughts are about this case. And what about the teen takeover in Chicago? Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson is coming under fire for saying that, while this is wrong, it's a mistake to demonize the youth. And so, a lot of our youth, black, yellow, brown, white, feel quite hopeless. Think about it. The University of Chicago is $100,000 a year for undergraduates. $100,000 a year. Who can afford to go there? What about buying a house, renting an apartment with a wage job? You can't do that. So I'm not giving these children excuses, but I'm saying that there's a lot going on in the society and we need to deal with it, not to mention the fact that we've just, I think, become unmoored morally. So let's talk about that, everybody. Let's talk about that today. And, of course, John Nichols will be discussing Clarence Thomas. Wow, will he be impeached? If he's impeached, will he be found guilty? Will he be removed from the court? What do you think? And it turns out Harlan Crow, the billionaire megadonor, GOP megadonor who has been working these financial deals out with him, it turns out that he has funded to the tune of $19 million Texas lawmakers. So he does a lot, but he also collects Hitler memorabilia. You can't make this stuff up, everybody. You just can't. So let's get right to the Santita Jackson Show, everybody. I want to hear from you. And I want you to join us at our International Conference of Rainbow Push, July 15th through the 19th. The 15th through the 19th. It's going to be fantastic, and it's going to be fantastic because you will be there. We'll be talking through the issues of the Tennessee Three, but also other legislators across the country, black legislators, brown legislators, progressive legislators, white progressive legislators. They're being pushed out of the chamber, which means their voters are not being recognized. We have those issues and so many more. And of course, inflation and what we're going to do about the economy, and going into 2024, what are we going to be doing? What are we talking about? Call us today at 773-FREEDOM, at 773-FREEDOM, and go to rainbowpush.org and get registered. And of course, on Saturday, there is the Paint and Sip. I'm just finding out about these social activities. It's going to be fantastic. We're having a fundraiser, of course, at Rainbow Push, $50. There's going to be a lot of fun, so everybody, please join us there. But I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Let me know what you think about the Ralph Yarl cases. Child, 16-year-old child, who was doing what his family told him to do, go pick up your twin brothers from this little party and bring them home. He rang the wrong doorbell, and he gets shot in the head and then shot in the arm, and then he had to go to 3 houses before someone would help him. Oh, boy. And then, of course, the teen takeover. That's first. We'll be talking about that, and then we'll pivot into these other stories. So call me at 773-763-9278. Meet my morning stars. Hey, Linear Bob. Hey, Samantha. Hey, Joyce. Hey, y'all, Miss Robinson. Sending you all much love. Please go to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, everybody. Robert Williams and Linear Bob and Andre are over there. The Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Facebook got in touch with me and asked me to get you all over there, so please do that. And then, if you want to be my friend on Facebook, and I hope that you do, please go to the Santita Jackson and Friends page. That is where I can be found. The Santita Jackson page is just a landing page, everybody. They're kicking off people every day because you have a limit. So please get on over to the Santita Jackson and Friends page. And that's why I named it thus. So let's get to these headlines, everybody. 773-763-9278. I love hearing from you so I can hear what is on your mind every day. Every day there's something else that's crazy that's going on. What about this weather every day, everybody? Did you see the snow yesterday in Chicago? The snow showers? Oh, yeah. It was like 80 degrees a couple of days ago. It'll get back in that direction, but it's still going to be chilly today. The high will be 55 degrees, partly cloudy. In Minneapolis, St. Paul, 53 degrees. 53 degrees. You're looking out for floods up there, everybody. And it's going to be clear skies, but floods. Everybody, please take care at my AM 950 radio family up in Minneapolis, St. Paul. In the NBA, it's playoff time, everybody. The Timberwolves will be facing off against the Nuggets tomorrow. In the meantime, the Nets 84, the 76ers 96. Philly leads that series 2-0. Warriors 106. The Kings were triumphant though, 114. The Sacramento Kings lead that series 2-0 tonight. The Hawks versus the Celtics. The Knicks versus the Cavaliers, and the Clippers versus the Suns. I love this time of year. Love it. In the NHL, the Wild 3, the Stars 2. In Major League Baseball, the Cubs, wow, 10. The A's shut out. They'll be playing again today, the A's, and Philly will be playing the White Sox tonight, and the Twins will be playing the Red Sox. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Want to hear from you today. Kansas City shooting. A white 84-year-old homeowner, Andrew Lester, everybody, who allegedly shot and wounded Ralph Yarl, the 16-year-old black child who went to the wrong address to pick up his siblings, will face 2 felony charges. We're going to ask about these charges because he was not charged with a hate crime, even though there's a racial element, and he was not charged with attempted murder. There's a young white girl who pulled into the wrong driveway in upstate New York. She was killed. 21 years of age. What is going on, everybody? This is absolutely crazy. Homeowner Andrew Lester told police he fired immediately after answering the doorbell when he saw the 16-year-old pulling on an exterior door handle, according to documents obtained by CNN. Lester said he was, quote, scared to death, close quote, due to the boy's size, according to the document. After the April 13th shooting, which left the teenager with gunshot wounds to his head and his arm, Ralph told police that he did not pull on the door. There you go. We'll see what's going on, everybody. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis floated the idea of building a state prison or a competing theme park next to Disney World in Orlando as revenge for the company resisting a state takeover of its special taxing district, laying out his plan to exact retribution against the House of the Mouse. The Florida Republican said the GOP-controlled state legislature will take steps to formally nullify Disney's attempts to maintain control of the district through last-minute maneuvering. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy on Monday previewed what he hopes House Republicans can pass in the next few weeks to raise the debt ceiling during a speech at the New York Stock Exchange. He told a crowd of traders and analysts, quote, "So here is our plan in the coming weeks. The House will vote on the bill to lift the debt ceiling into the next year, save taxpayers trillions of dollars, make us less dependent on China, curb our inflation, all without touching Social Security and Medicare," close quote. While sounding optimistic, there is no bipartisan agreement in sight, and Democrats continue to argue that the debt limit should be lifted without any conditions attached. And of course, it's tax day, everybody. You getting your taxes in, or you're going to have to file for an extension, like me. Everybody. That's it for the headlines. We've got, of course, Pastor Stephen Thurston. Of course, he's at New Covenant Missionary Baptist Church. His family have held on to that pulpit for 88 years. 88 years. They're great preaching family, and he is a preaching machine. Do not miss him, everybody. Of course, he has just recently retired as a teaching pastor at Salem Baptist Church. We're so glad to have you give us the good news every Friday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. Facebook Live, you can catch him giving a message. Oh, Pastor Thurston, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How about you, Santita?
Oh, honey, I'm hanging in there. I'm doing well. You know, I'm naming it and claiming it. I'm doing great. How about that? Yeah.
Love it.
That's it.
Listen, many of us, as you were talking and walking through those headlines, it seems like many of us are waiting for the other shoe to drop on a daily basis. And I want to challenge us in that regard, because learning to live in the moment is a special gift that's developed in a healthy childhood. That's ideally when we discover simple pleasures like playing with crayons, learning to ride a bike, and even making friends. But sometimes terrible things happen that twist happiness into something horrible. Parents' rage, a bully's ridicule, bouts of depression, or waves of loneliness can literally shatter a moment's joy to pieces. How can you enjoy being with a friend, discover what makes you laugh, or feel good about yourself when it all might come crashing down at any moment? And if you tend to worry that something bad will happen if you dare enjoy the here and now, you're a person who's always waiting for the other shoe to drop. That though it's a sentiment I hear often, let me remind us that you don't have to live a life where you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. If you think this way, let me ask a few questions. Do you have any trauma in your history that may not have been properly processed? Did you grow up in an environment without secure attachments? Did you grow up in a family where one or both parents frightened you or even frightened themselves? All of these things may be at the root of your worrying behavior. This chronic state of hyperarousal, it's a coping mechanism that makes sense given a traumatic upbringing. Moving forward, there is some hope. There is some good news. These coping skills can be replaced with new, healthier ones that serve a brighter future, not a traumatic past. Preparing for disaster, whether it be big or small, is something that is common among trauma survivors who regularly feel hypervigilant. Being hyper-aware was once a necessary survival mechanism that kept you safe. But it's a coping skill that's no longer working for your future life. You may not need it anymore is the reality. It might actually be hindering your growth, your healing, your contentment, and even your relationships. If you're always anticipating the worst, if you're always double-checking with people in your life, constantly asking the question, are you sure? If you're always prepared with the plan B, I want you to know that you don't have to continue to live like this. Life doesn't have to be this hard. You don't have to feel like this all. And perhaps you think it's just part of who you are now. It's not. It's a coping mechanism that you learned, and it can be helped and healed by noticing it. Let me give you 3 quick important steps that you can take towards healing worry thoughts and actions that don't really serve you anymore. Number 1, have an honest and compassionate dialogue with yourself, because being compassionate with yourself is where all the healing starts. Number two, I want you to experience a secure relationship in therapy. Consistency is a powerful force that can help you heal, and therapy is an excellent place to build a secure relationship. And then number three, have a conversation with your loved ones and your friends. To help you heal, you got to build some secure attachments in your current relationships. I want us to leave here today recognizing that hope is available, that compassion is available, that healing is available, and a future filled with pleasant moments, yeah, that's available too, without waiting for the other shoe to drop. All of this is possible in your life.
I love that. I love that. I don't wait for the other shoe to drop. I guess I look at it this way, because I don't wait for the other shoe to drop. I just take it. Life as it comes. I try to do that.
Yes.
But, what I do is understand that, there's balance in life. It seems that when you're having your professional triumphs, you have challenges personally. And, and maybe it's age or just what I've seen in life. I don't lament that. I'm like, okay, you pay a price for everything. Everybody. But I think untreated trauma, I'm so glad that you continue to go to that, because in the Bible, and just given our own religious education, we talk about generational curses and things like that. And you're like, let's make this real for us. This is unhealed stuff that we got.
That's
1
right.
minute belongs
That's
to
right.
you, Pastor Thurston.
Yeah, a lot of where we are in life is really built upon our childhood. That's why, as parents, it's crucial and critical that you're intent in everything you do and say in those developmental years of children. And then if you had some bad experiences, it's okay. You're not by yourself. Other people have had them. Let's do what we need to do to get help. Many people in church, I discovered as a pastor, engage in spiritual bypassing. They spiritualize everything when some stuff, it really needs some clinical attention. And so let's not be afraid to engage therapists and psychologists and psychiatrists, people that God has gifted to help us to move and to navigate through life, unpack some of the bad baggage and deal with some of the stuff that can help us to move forward in life in a more healthy and sustainable way.
Pastor Stephen Thurston, when can we see you on Facebook?
Friday, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time under my name, Stephen Thurston. And then this Sunday, I'm preaching New Covenant Baptist Church in Chicago, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can catch us on all platforms.
Get on over there, and get over there earlier than I do, because I'm running there from work. Creeping in the back, but he sees me coming, and he sees everybody who comes in. I don't know how you catch it, but okay, I get it. The preacher's eye, that's what I call it.
That's it.
Like my father would catch us sleeping during a sermon. Yes. Congressman Jackson, yes, Jonathan had a problem with that, and he sat him in your father's chair.
That's right.
Pastors,
keep him awake.
Oh my God, to keep him awake. This was hilarious. Jonathan fought. I love you, Pastor Thurston. God bless you. Have a great day.
All right, no problem.
We've got Dr. Shanita Knighton, and I want to ask you about, I love following you on, in social media. Hey, Dr. Nina, HEYDRNINA. You talk about community living in this particular area, and give us some tips on how we can prevent community spread, not just of COVID, but of everything.
Good morning. So I guess the thing is when we talk about community spread, we can be talking about community, meaning is community consisting of the individuals that are within our inner circle, meaning that we dwell with them inside of one home. And in that particular instance, one of the things that I always tell people is that if you love me, take care of yourself, which then takes care of me. What that means is when you are living in a home with someone, and you may very well be, let's say, the partner, or you might be the person that has to work outside of the home, but you might have an older adult who may be just naturally, just as a result of being older, going to be more likely to get sick or more vulnerable to be getting sick. And so as we think about, let's say, our lifestyle choices, meaning, am I going to go to a party that I know is going to be high risk because of the crowdedness, because of being in an indoor space, because of people shouting, screaming, because of the type of season that it is. Meaning, again, we cannot mask forever, but there are instances, such as the weather, that would increase someone's risk of illness, as well as, like, let's say, the ability for us to be able to transmit germs. And so we know that that is the truth. Based off of how we see things, happen when there's an uptick in COVID, when there's an uptick in flu, when there's an uptick in illness. And so I always remind people, when we are thinking about dwelling indoors or inside of community settings, set some ground rules. So number one, hey, I understand that you may work outside of the home, I may be home. What are some things that we can put in place, such as making sure that when you come in, you wash your hands, you're washing, your face, or any germs that can live on the skin. Again, during COVID, we learned that it lived on the skin for about 9 hours. So maybe that's a ground rule that's set. The other thing is maybe there is frequent, washing of door handles, as well as, just commonly touched surfaces in the home, such as the refrigerator. That could be another guideline. Number 3, it could be, and I don't know about you, Santita, but removal of shoes was something that was very important, because you didn't want to transmit the germs from outside, inside of your home, be walking around with bare feet, put those same bare feet in your bed, and run the risk of transmitting other germs to yourself. So that very well could be a rule that someone would set. The other thing is, too, is when you're thinking about rule number 4, paying attention as a community, and I'm speaking again, if you're in your community you're with all the time, how are you all eating? So are you all encouraging each other to, be healthy, or are you encouraging someone to be without health? If you are eating unhealthy foods the majority of the time, and you are stressed, and you are consuming sugar, and you're doing other things, just understand that lowers your immune system, which is going to make you more likely to get sick. Sick being defined as there being more inflammation in the body than normal, so maybe you have excessive sneezing, you have all of those things. And I know we talked about this before, Santita, in regards to the spring coming and allergies. So the next time around on the show, we'll actually have a conversation about that and ways to protect yourself, because those droplets, even if someone says they're allergies, still do mean something.
Dr. Shanina Knighton, everybody, go to HEYDRNINA. Hey, Dr. Nina. She reminds me every day that I need to be thinking. Put on those thinking caps, everybody. Wash those hands. Take off those shoes. My grandmother used to put it this way: do not bring the dirt from outside into this house. So there you go. And wash off the dirt of the day. You couldn't speak to her until you bathed after you'd come in from being out all day. You just had to do that. Think about that, everybody. Love you, Dr. Shanina Knighton. Let's talk about this event that we had this past weekend here in Chicago, this teenage takeover, and Ralph Yarl, the 16-year-old black boy who, I guess he knocked on the wrong door, rang the wrong doorbell, got shot in the head and in the arm, and then couldn't get help for 3 houses. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show. Why hasn't the alleged shooter been charged with attempted murder? Let's talk about it on the Santita Jackson Show back in a minute. Dr. Knighton, thank you so much. Tomorrow you want to talk about what now? Dr. Knighton?
We're in the spring. Yes, we're in the spring right now, so spring allergies. People tend to downplay those droplets. There'll be a lot of sneezing and stuff going on. So, deciphering what is the difference between having a cold and having allergies. What should you still be doing in terms of etiquette? So those sorts of dialogue.
Okay, that's it. Yes, a sneeze is a sneeze. I think that's what you're telling me.
That's it. A droplet is a droplet, and you don't ever know.
That's right. A sneeze is a sneeze, and a droplet is a droplet. Oh, Beth, you called in. You said you might be going to the Rainbow Push Conference, and you want some clarification. Please call me back, because I certainly would love to clarify things for you. But in lieu of that, please go to rainbowpush.org or call 773-FREEDOM, 773-FREEDOM, And they should be able to get you some help there. But if not, always call me. Please do. Please, 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 please do. And sending you all so much love today. Oh, boy. We went from 80 degrees about 3 days ago, Dr. Knighton, to snow yesterday. It didn't stick, but it was blowing in your face. It was like, what? Only in Chicago. You blink, the weather changes. So, everybody, let's get to it. Okay.
Hi, Ms. Jackson.
Yeah.
We have Joanne McKee, Reverend Dr. Hatch, and Reverend Jeanette Wilson ready to go.
Okay, were you able to find Mrs. Wells?
Getting her pulled up as we speak.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Gotta let me know, because I'd like to pivot to her first.
Okay, we'll do.
Mm-hmm.
We have 2 minutes, just a heads up.
Thank you. So we'll bring them up so that I can say hello to them, please. Reverend
They should be
Wilson?
now.
Reverend Wilson?
Yes, ma'am.
Hey,
Ma'am.
just testing, just want to test the sound. Reverend Dr. Hatch?
President, how you doing? Good morning.
Wonderful hearing your voice. And Dwight McKee?
Morning.
Good morning. In about 10 minutes I'm going to pivot to the Ralph Yarl case, the 16-year-old black boy who was shot in the head and in the arm down in Missouri, where they have a stand your ground law. So if you all don't mind, because the gentleman who shot him, who allegedly shot him, I guess we should say that until, although he was arrested for that, and it appears that he's the one who did it, he has not been charged with attempted murder, which I found interesting. We're going to be talking with C.K. Hoffler and attorney Darrell Jones about that at the top, and Reverend Wilson will be joining us for that as well. But there's a lot to talk about there. A lot.
Hi, Ms. Jackson. Chappelle
Yes.
Wells is ready to go.
Okay.
And also the caller from earlier, Beth, is back on. I have her on hold.
I'll go right to her.
All right, perfect. I'll let her
Okay.
know that real quick.
Thank
We
you
have
so much.
30 seconds.
Fantastic. All right, everybody, we're coming up. Oh, boy. Ooh.
Hello?
Hello, Miss Beth. Hold on one moment. How are you?
Stand by.
Okay.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. Oh, yes, we can. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, July 15th through the 19th. The Rainbow Push International Conference wants you to be there. Please go to rainbowpush.org and get registered, and go to, call them at 773-FREEDOM, 773-FREEDOM, so you can get more information. And of course, we're going to be talking about this teen takeover in Chicago, where for 2 consecutive nights over the weekend, last weekend, there was a teen takeover. And indeed, 2 teenagers, 16 and 17, were shot while standing in a crowd during what people are describing as mayhem. And indeed, Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson said, this is not a good thing, but it would be a mistake to condemn these young people. So we want to talk with you about it. What do you make of this? And then, of course, Ralph Yarl, the 16-year-old black boy, and he's a boy, he's not a young man, he's a boy. He did what his family told him to do. Go pick up your twin brothers from this little get-together, which is what he did. Got confused, had the right street, the right number, but the wrong address, right? It was 115th and something, and it was like 115th place. And the white man whose doorbell he rang, door he knocked on, was afraid and shot him in the head and in the arm. Wow. And it took him 3 houses to get some help. Got to talk about that, everybody. So I want you to call me at 773-763-9278. Miss Beth, how are you?
Yes, it is. It definitely is.
Yes, ma'am. So what's on your mind today? I understand you might be coming to the Rainbow Push Convention.
What's on my mind today now is that I'm currently stuck living in a public housing place that I'm currently working to get the hell out of, and I have a friend who's my ILS worker and a worker that's also helping me to get the hell out of, and I have also a real good case manager who wants to help me get out of here, and I'm and my lease is being ended, but I have only 30 days to get out of. She's making sure that I have a hearing to buy me more time.
So, Miss Beth, are you?
And I'm dealing with a horrible slumlord who.
So, Miss Beth, I need to get to it because we're going to have to go to a few other topics.
Sorry.
No. I don't want you to apologize, and I don't want you to leave. Reverend Jeanette Wilson, it appears that she is facing what so many Americans, if thousands, if not millions, are looking at. Unfair housing, not good housing, and facing eviction.
Exactly.
So is that what you're looking at, Miss Beth?
Yes, and I do plan on coming to the Rainbow Push Convention.
And we want you there, but hold on. First,
to the Netroots Nation Convention, and then later on, Matt and I will be coming down at the very end of the month to the Disability Pride March.
Okay, well, hold on one moment. Reverend Wilson, is there anything, and Pastor Hatch, is there anything that can be done personally for Miss Beth? And just in about a minute, I need you to do that. And if you would, please leave your information with my board operator so that we can be in touch with you, Miss Beth. Hold on one moment. What can be done for her? This is an issue that's facing millions of Americans, quite frankly. They're being pushed out of their homes, and the housing is not as robust as it needs to be anyway. Reverend Wilson.
One of the things that we are doing is working with UIC Law School. They have a housing clinic. They focus on affordable housing. They focus on housing discrimination. And we plan to have a housing day at Rainbow Push headquarters in the coming weeks. We think it'll be around Law Day, May 6th. We will have housing attorneys there and have the housing clinic. In the meantime, she could go to UIC Law School. It's on Plymouth Court in Jackson, and ask to speak to Professor Michael Sang, and they will help her.
Okay, where is it again, Reverend Wilson?
UIC Law School, it's at State and Jackson. The entrance is on State and Jackson. Ask for the housing clinic at UIC Law School, and they have students and faculty that will help her. They deal with affordable housing.
Should I write this down for May 6th?
Yes, come to Push on May 6th, but immediately go to UIC at State and Jackson and go to the housing clinic, okay? Because we don't want you to be thrown out in the streets.
When would I be able to go?
I don't know their hours or days now, since COVID. Call UIC Law School, ask for the housing clinic, and they will give you that information.
Okay.
I need a phone number.
Hold on. What I'll do during the break, if you just stay right there, Miss Beth, just hold on. If you stay right there, I'll look it up, and I'll pass it to my board operator who will give it to you. How's that?
That's fine.
Okay, just hold on, because I need to pivot, but just stay right there. Stay right there because I want to get you some help, okay? All right, sending her much love. A lot of people are really struggling out here, and that's why why it gets me up in the morning. Let me start with you in a couple of minutes. Reverend Wilson, this teen takeover. Indeed, Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson is facing a fair amount of criticism and praise for his reaction. You know, he didn't praise the mayhem, as some people have described it, but many of these young people are feel that they have no hope, that they can't get an education, they can't get good jobs, they can't rent, they can't buy a house, they can't. It's just a mountain that just seems insurmountable. What do you make of what happened this past weekend, this teen takeover of downtown, and why are these teens taking over downtown? A couple of minutes for you.
Well, first of all, I don't think it's a takeover of downtown, number one. Oftentimes, there's some adult engagement with these teens. It's not a whole millions of teens that took over the loop. That's a misstatement of fact. Secondly, these teens, most kids that you and I know that are in trouble, they don't have the capacity financially or otherwise to just go and take over the loop. You have to get there. You have to know how to get there. I've taken 22 college tours, and most of the students had never seen Lake Michigan from the downtown side. So I think that some of this is just the angst that is in the atmosphere. There are some challenges that these young people are facing, but they're also dropped off in the loop, which happened the last time they had large bodies of young people downtown. Many of these kids were put in Ubers and taken downtown and encouraged to misbehave. So
By
some
whom?
of this is
Who did
adult-led
this?
behavior. I don't know the names of the people. Some of this is related to street organizations. Some of this is related to creating the idea that these teens are just so unruly and that they cannot be managed or handled. And that's just absolutely not true. Now, it's an issue that we must address as a total community, not just the police. You know, you have to ask the parents, where were your children? And then we have to look at what kinds of initiatives we have to deal with this kind of errant behavior. But some of this is adult-infused behavior.
Yeah, Leah, because I'm like, I don't know how these kids got out. My mama would let me go nowhere, and you know this.
Get out the house, and we have to establish curfew. We've got to. When I grew up, you know, the television, everything started counting down. You got 10 minutes to curfew, 15 minutes skirt.
And maybe because my mother she was not above going into the streets and embarrassing you, going up to the school and embarrassing you. Oh my gosh. Whew.
It's parental, it's community, and it's adults that are using children, in my judgment, to do things that they won't do because the children they feel will not get time. It's all kind of stuff. So all of this is a cycle of errant behavior that is not just youth-led.
All right. Well, Reverend Hatch, what do you make of this?
Well, I do think that it's cultural and systemic to some of the things that we're dealing with, and I think that the mayor-elect had a measured and an intelligent response. You know, I've heard the numbers as many as 30,000 students who didn't show back up to school after the pandemic was officially declared over. And so that means they've been out for 3 years. And some of them didn't go back. And many of them are living off the land. And these families are fragile. They're fractured. They're financially unstable. They're housing insecure. And we have a incredibly difficult and complex social problem here with a generation of young people who literally been raising themselves. And to throw on top of it, we've been very irresponsible with the way that we've allowed the music industry and other cultural influencers to degenerate the human character in a lot of these young people. and so it's going to be a challenge to try to figure out what to do, because this is something that is it can easily get way out of control.
Dwight McKee, your assessment of this?
Well, our kids are really who we taught, exactly who we taught them, who we didn't teach them not to be. You got a generation of young kids who was raised on BET rather than BTU. Generation of young kids who never had to be baptized in the River Jordan because we gave them Air Jordans. They have just been trying to substitute things for being. They're operating with no meaning, no direction, no purpose. And so the tragedy is many of them go out and party and drink and then do drugs, and then some come home and commit suicide. They are really kind of an aimless generation, many of them. And this is not a Chicago problem. If you look in Florida at the spring break, you saw thousands of kids, well-to-do, black, white, college-bound, doing the exact same thing over days and weeks. If you look in Atlanta, you saw kids doing the same thing in Atlanta over the summer. I mean, this is a cultural problem that generations of kids who are disconnected from themselves and their neighbors and any values that society would impose upon them. No connection with anything divine, no personal accountability. They really are who they are because they don't know anything else to be, and we haven't taught them anything differently.
Well, I mean, what do you make of the mayor-elect's response? Because he's being criticized, ostensibly from the right, but I don't know if it can be. I don't think it's that simple. He's saying, be careful not to demonize these kids. What do you think about that, Dwight?
I think it's, as Reverend had said, I think it's a very measured response. And I think that if you run the risk of demonizing them, you think the answer is exorcism. What you do is you bring the police out with them billy clubs to try to beat them into submission because you don't see them as aimless young people with no purpose. You see them as diabolical people who are marauding through the city creating havoc. And so you have to be very, very, very careful. I mean, so these young kids, again, are doing what's natural to them in lieu of giving other options and other possibilities. They really didn't do anything. They really are tame compared to the people that stormed the Capitol and beat 100 police into submission. But we didn't demonize them. We saw them as we arrested many of them, but the police was there and didn't beat them into submission like they did the kids in 1960, the Democratic National Convention. So I think he's right. You have to be very careful how you categorize these kids. And I think that you should really focus on substituting purpose as opposed to just suppression for a lot of these kids. I looked at what happens in Reverend Hatch's program we have on the West Side, the My Alpha program, where we have the same kind of kids who come in who kind of aimless and purposeless. And we try to create an identity to them and a sense of responsibility and connect them with themselves and their personal responsibility and their personal development and connect them with God, give them a sense of right and wrongness. Many of these kids have no sense of rightness or wrongness. They just operate based on the values they see on television. And those are the values we give them.
I mean, and Reverend Wilson, the values are off. I mean, Well, I mean, I'm just saying that, Reverend Hatch talked about, what's something Reverend Jackson talked about 50 years ago when he saw music turning away from, the redemptive, uplifting music that we grew up with Stax and Motown and Buddha records and what Quincy Jones and people like that were producing and the old time gospel, Mahalia Jackson, James Cleveland, and on and on and on. And you took a turn to lascivious lyrics, vulgar lyrics, where women of all colors, but particularly black women. You remember the Some Girls album and that Some Girls song by the Rolling Stones. Some girls like to do this, some girls like to do that, Puerto Rican girls like to do that, but black girls like to blank all night. And it's just gotten worse. And then you open up the Grammys with Sam Smith dressed as the devil. I mean, come on.
But I
Jeanette?
think
One side
part of it is
the other side of the culture. Hold on 1 second, Jeanette. That's one side of the culture. The other side of the culture are kids that's innovated with just the violence of the culture. You understand now. Our national anthem is about bombs and rockets, and we the kids have that sing that every day with a hand over their heart. Our national symbol is an eagle, a predatory bird, whose whole role is to eat whatever he can catch. They're inundated not just by the images of debauchery in popular culture, but the whole nature of the culture that they are raised in is a violent culture. Go ahead, Jeanette.
Jeanette, what were you saying, Jeanette?
Well, what I was going to say is similar to what Dwight and Reverend Hatch has said. The issue is we bombard these children on a daily basis with negative media images where there is no right or wrong. Everyone does what is right in their own eyes. It's like you have children, leading children. When you have a group of kids and you say, who's your family? And they tell you their family is a street organization or people in the street. They don't know their mother, grandmother. That's not considered family to them. They are operating independent of adult supervision. When I was at CPS, and we had at that time, I think 100% less violence than we have now, we created a program where every church faith organization did what Reverend Hatch is doing, not to the intensity that they did, but we opened up these churches so that these faith institutions, we have to put in our children some character. We devised a character education curriculum. Most of these young people, they don't know what is right or wrong. They've not been taught that anywhere, not at home, not in school, and so they figure, I do whatever I feel like doing. I take your shoes. If you don't like it, then whoop me. And that kind of attitude is permeated and produced all across the country. You see this happening with adult behavior. They're modeling the behavior that they see. Anytime on January 6th, you can go to the nation's capital, put feces on the wall, threaten United States congresspersons. These are adults. These kids see this kind of stuff. It's all over social media. You and I and Hatch and Dwight, we did not have social media. We did not have constant bombardment of these negative images, not just on the radio, but it's also in the palm of their hands. And so we have to begin to hold these companies, these music companies, accountable. We've done that before. I remember when C. Dolores Tucker and all those women talked about gangster rap. It was a problem because it manipulates your thinking. It changes your heart rate. You start getting hyped up. And now we have that plus this loud that's on the street. These kids are ingesting it. They're ingesting what I consider to be things that damage the organs, formaldehyde. You got dipping marijuana and all sorts of substances that cause different kinds of interactions that these young people are not able to understand, nor can we when they're taken to the hospital. So it's a lot of factors. And I think the mayor is trying to suggest it's not just a police and arrest and detain them. This is a much broader problem that we have. And it's going to take a little bit more time, and he's not even sworn in.
Well, it was here, and it's going to be here. This is it. I've got 1 minute for you, Reverend Dr. Hatch, and then 1 minute for you, Dwight McKee. What's next?
Well, I've talked to some pastors this week already who are trying to, figure out the ways that we can all together, provide a path forward. So this summer, all the churches need to be open and doing, ministry. But I think that we've learned, as has been said, we have a generation here that we've simply failed to raise, and it, very interesting. I think it's Dwight that put it all together and then ended the suicide. That's exactly what we're saying. Probably the most heartbreaking thing is that on day one when we did Ma'afa, and the first question is, who are you? How would you answer that question? And almost to a person, each of the young people in a moment of transparency just simply says, I don't know. And so a lot of what we're doing, we call it program, but really a lot of what we're doing is we're finishing the parenting process. Yeah. I have title of pastor, but really on the campus I'm called Big Hatch, which is that father figure that a lot of these young people have not had, that gives them a sense of stability. And at the end of the day, I know the mayor used the language, the mayor-elect, but honestly, it's just love. Everybody needs it.
Dwight McKee, the final minute belongs to you. Well, actually, 30 seconds.
That's exactly what my experience is, in the program that I have on the West Side, is that these kids, many of them have been unloved and unnurtured, and they're looking for meaning. They're looking to be acknowledged that they mean something to somebody. They are just kind of kids that's raised, that is falling out the head of zoos. And so it's amazing how the basics transform these kids. They're looking to learn and nobody's teaching them. They look to be loved and nobody loves them. They look to be guided, nobody guides them. So when they find that, they become almost obsessed with it. I mean, we can't get these kids are there all day and all night. 5, 6, 7 days a week, and they're just looking for any other kids that are looking for a need to belong to somebody. And so we do them a disservice when we think that you can impose a sociological problem on a sociological solution on a spiritual problem.
There's that.
We just need to learn to take time out
Absolutely.
and reach out and relate to our kids and love our children.
And love our children.
And give them options.
They need love, everybody. They need love. All you need is love. The Beatles wrote it, and it's just the truth. The commandment is to love. It's not a suggestion, everybody. Reverend Dr. Marshall Hatch, Dwight McKee, tremendous program at the New Mount Pilgrim Missionary Baptist Church. You got to come back and talk about that and see how we can get more kids signed up. We got to figure out how we can get a girls component, because our girls are suffering too. Boy, oh boy. But you know what? The good news is that we have an opportunity to change things. Let's talk about Ralph Yarl, everybody. Why was he shot? And why was the alleged shooter not charged with attempted murder? 773-763-9278. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. Thank you all so much. I am moving on, but you all have to come back and talk about that. Okay?
Yep, and the component for girls has already begun.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, no, absolutely, we got to talk about that, because I'm so on board with helping our boys. That having been said, I don't think we talk about the pain and the emptiness of our girls enough. Because they have the additional challenge of dealing with misogyny and racism. And there's just a lot going on. I mean, just misogyny in and of itself. Sexism is so much to deal with. But I love you all. I'm going to let you all go so I can get these other people in and get these calls up. But I'm sending you much love. Thank you, Dwight. Thank you, Reverend Dr. Hatch. Sending you much, much, much love. But come back. I'll reach out to you in the next day or so that you can talk about that, because that we need to know what it is that we can do.
Well, and one of the things I think girls are really critical, because a lot of this behavior is being promoted and pushed by young women, because they also have some different issues, and so we had to do a special focus on young women. I mean, when I was at CPS, the girls were carrying the weapons inside the building in their underwear.
Well, there's a lot going on. There was a murder in front of my parents' home in Washington, and the young woman was chased. It was several people chasing one guy, and it was a young woman who was urging the young men on to kill this young man, and he did. And then they turned around and said, "Have a good night, Mrs. Jackson." Oh my gosh. Whew. It's too much. Everybody call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right, so we got that. Is Chaparral still there? I'm sorry, I didn't get to Chaparral. I was trying to get to Miss Beth. Miss Beth, I found a number for you. 312-427-2737. If you're still listening. 312-427-2737. That's the UIC Housing Clinic, and that takes you right to the people who will help you at that housing clinic. And if you have any other problems, just call us at Rainbow Push at 773-FREEDOM. But please call 312-427-2737. And you saw me with my head down, everybody. It's because I was trying to find the number for her, because people need a lot of help. They really, really do.
Hi, Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
We have Attorney C.K. Hoffler and Attorney Daryl Jones on and ready to go.
Okay, great. Attorney C.K. Hoffler, I'm gonna call you one of these days, and it's got to be sooner rather than later.
Okay, that's fine. Whenever you have time.
Well, will you have any time this afternoon or this evening?
This evening's better. I'm preparing for trial, so I'm until about.
What's a good time?
Florida.
And I will adhere to it. I'll write it down. You're in Florida?
Yeah, Florida. Yeah, I've been here since Sunday.
Okay, I didn't know you were still there.
No, the whole week. But I am usually, before 7 o'clock in the morning, of course. But you're on the early morning show. But also after 7 or 8 p.m.
Eastern.
Eastern.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. 7 PC. Call CK. Okay. All right. I'll put that here.
And that's all week through back on Friday. So any night this week.
Okay. I will do that. I will. All right. Hey, Daryl. How you doing? Daryl, I apologize. I didn't even know that I'd called you. Bless your heart. I did not realize. I was like, he called me. So I got nervous. I was like, oh, what happened? Then I looked up. I said, oh, I called him. Oh, I dare not call him back this early in the morning. But I apologize for that.
No, it was no worries. I was up anyway, so,
No, that's like the crazy hour. And then he was like, has she lost her mind? What?
2 minutes.
So please forgive me. Goodness gracious. Everybody, the UIC Law School Housing Clinic, 312-427-2737. 312-427-2737. Beth, I'm reaching out to you, Miss Beth, especially because you do need help. When I see this picture of this little Ralph Yarl, it makes me want to cry. Think of this baby. He looks like he's in band, which is what he's in. He looks like he wants to be a little engineer, which is what he's ambitious to be. And to think that someone shot him in his head. They've raised $2.5 million on this GoFundMe page. And I'm wondering if I have a lot of questions for you, CK, and Daryl, and Jeanette. Because he's only 16. We don't know the impact of getting shot, and we don't know what the impact of getting shot in his head will be. We just don't know.
Absolutely.
You know.
And even
60 seconds.
The rest of his life he's going to have challenges, even if he has a full recovery. I mean, this is, if you talk to trauma surgeons, especially neurologists, they will tell you the impact that this can have.
Oh, girl, I can't even imagine. But stand by. We're coming up. Stand by. We are coming up. It's just a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Too much.
Ooh. Every day is something new. I just want to give him a big old hug. Sweet
Carol
baby.
and Reverend Wilson.
Yes?
Good morning. I was just saying good morning to both of y'all.
I'm glad you're feeling better. You sound wonderful.
Honey, but I think the furies kicked in on her because she almost talked her way out of sickness last week. She got so angry. I said, I gotta watch Colin CK about these issues.
Completely well for trial. Trial does that to us.
Stand by, about to come back.
Great, stand by, everybody. We're coming in. Okay, do we have Chaparral up?
Yes, we do.
Okay, great.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. Yes, we can. We can change the world. We can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love. It's not too late. Gotta save the children. We can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I want you to meet my morning stars over on the Santita Jackson and Friends page on Facebook. That is the page where I can accept friends. So please go there and go to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Facebook reached out to me and they asked me that I ask you to go over there and like and subscribe. Everybody, let's talk about Ralph Yarl, the 16-year-old black boy who knocked on the wrong door, rang the wrong doorbell, trying to do what his parents asked him to do, which was go pick up your baby brothers from this little get-together. And he gets shot in the head and shot in the arm. And it took him 3 houses to get some assistance. Got to talk about that, everybody. And why was the alleged shooter held under 2 hours, according to attorney Ben Crump, held 20 minutes, sent home? Why was he not charged with attempted murder? There's a young white girl in New York who pulled into the wrong driveway this past weekend. She was killed. Killed, everybody. What's going on with us? This poor child was killed. And then what? Now, they charged the man who shot her with with murder. Correctly. But why did he have to kill her while she was driving away? What? You all, come on. Call me at 773-763-9278. And please join us at our Rainbow Push International Conference. Rainbow Push International Conference, 773-FREEDOM, 773 Freedom. I want you to please meet us July 15th through the 19th at the Rainbow International Conference. Go call 773-FREEDOM for more information and go to rainbowpush.org. And our Paint and Sip event is on Saturday from 3 to 6. You don't want to miss it. $50. We are raising money for the organization and we need your help. And it's going to be great. You're going to be able to find your paintings and you'll come up with some art, get some little drinky winkies and have some fun. All for a good cause, everybody. Please go to rainbowpush.org for more information for the Paint and Sip at 930 East 50th Street on Saturday evening, everybody. In Chicago, we're going to have a high of 55 degrees, partly cloudy. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 53 degrees. Flood warning, everybody, but it's going to be clear. It's clear right now in Chicago. I hope it doesn't cloud up in the NBA. It's playoff time, everybody. The Timberwolves will be facing the Nuggets tomorrow, but in the meantime, the Nets 84, the 76ers 96, the Philadelphia 76ers, well, you know, it's Philly to me, leading that series 2-0, and the Kings 114, the Warriors 106, Sacramento leads 2-0. The Hawks will be playing the Celtics tonight, the Knicks will be playing the Cavaliers, and the Clippers will be playing the Suns. And we're moving into Stanley Cup season, everybody. That's right, playoffs. The Wild 3, the Stars 2. In Major League Baseball, the Cubs, boy, they burned through the A's, and they'll be playing them again today. 10-0 Philly at White Sox today, and the Twins versus the Red Sox. Everyone is talking about the Ralph Yarl case in Kansas City, Missouri. A white 84-year-old homeowner who allegedly shot and wounded Ralph Yarl, 16 years of age, after this black teenager went to the wrong address to pick up his siblings, will face 2 felony charges. And that was announced yesterday. We'll be talking more about that and the homeowner, Andrew Lester, and why he was not charged with attempted murder. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis floated the idea of building a state prison or a competing theme park next to Disney World in Orlando as revenge for the company resisting a state takeover of its special taxing district. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy on Monday previewed what he hopes House Republicans can pass in the next few weeks, legislation to raise the debt ceiling, during a speech at the New York Stock Exchange. Quote, he said, "So here is our plan in the coming weeks. The House will vote on the bill to lift the debt ceiling into the next year, save taxpayers trillions of dollars, make us less dependent on China, curb our inflation, all without touching Social Security and Medicare." Close quote. And those are just some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show as we get this, hear from Chaparral about these good victuals that you get from Celebrations by Us. And I want to encourage you to go to these independent businesses. I go to Pearl's Restaurant all the time, love them, and Fanfare by Faye. And when I'm in New York, I go to Melba's and Sylvia's. This is where so many of us work and so many of us live, everybody. And so please support these businesses. Leon's Barbecue, Daly's, all these folks. Just get in there and support them because they need you and we need them, everybody. But if you want to buy a home, I want you to reach out to Team Hochberg. Team Hochberg. Particularly if you're a first-time buyer. Now, you're first-time buyer if you have not owned a home within the past 3 years. Call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. First-time buyers made up just 26% of the market last year, down from 34% the year before and down from the year before. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are alarmed by these numbers, so they want to do something to turn the numbers around. So, with these substantially lowered rates that they have established, you can get a home. If you're in the Chicago area and your household income is under $105,700 and you've not owned a home within the past 3 years, you might be able to buy a new home right now. Call Team Hochberg at 855-56-DAVID. 855-56-DAVID to see if you qualify for these great rates, everybody. This special offer can expire at any time, so don't miss this opportunity. Call them. You can go to 56david.com, 56david.com, but I think you should give them a call because all kinds of questions they will ask you and all kinds of questions you can ask them. You'll get them answered and give them all your information because they're going to do the research anyway with your permission. And they can really, really help you to become a home buyer. That is a cornerstone of the American dream, everybody. So to see if you, your kids, your grandkids can build some generational wealth, see if you can qualify for this program and call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID. Chaparral Wells, what's going on with you today?
Good morning, Santita, and we are definitely still cooking at Celebrations by Us. So give us a call at 708-526-4546, 708-526-4546. We're gearing up for prom season as well as also graduation season and weddings. So call us at 708-526-4546. We can handle your balloon arches, your custom suite tables, as well as also your custom treats, your backgrounds, as well as also, of course, your mastacholi, your chicken, as well as also your ribs, your everything that we do here at Celebrations by Us. So call us at 708-526-4546. We look forward to serving you. Thank you so much, Santita.
Celebrations by Us, everybody. So let's get right to it. What happened to Ralph Yarl? Rang the wrong doorbell, everybody, in Kansas City, Missouri, after he was sent out to do what he'd been asked to do by his family, go pick up your little brothers from the little party. And I want to know, what do you think about this? There's a racial component that has helped to drive the charges, but there's no hate crime. He wasn't trying to just hurt this boy. He shot him in the head. Why not attempted murder? Andrew Lester, 84 years of age. I said, let me call C.K. Hoffler. She's the former head of the National Bar Association, the largest Black Bar Association in the world. Of course, she's on Court TV analyzing this case and so many others, and she's the chair of Rainbow Push, and of course the chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition, and of course head of Push Excel program, Reverend Jeanette Wilson, Esquire. So let me start with you, CK. CK, why no hate crime? Why no attempted murder? He shot him in the head, CK. What is that?
Well, Santita, none of this makes sense, but I can address why no hate crime. Evidently, under the hate crime statutes that they have, and not every jurisdiction has robust hate crime statutes, but the charges would have been lesser, evidently, than the charges that were brought. So there was a decision made not to bring a hate crime charge, but that doesn't mean that there wouldn't be any federal hate crime charges. Maybe the Justice Department, much like they did in the Ahmaud Arbery case, maybe this is a hate crime case potentially for the Justice Department to bring. I mean, I think that is an open question, personally, and I feel very, very comfortable that with Lee Merritt, a National Bar Association member, very active, and Ben Crump, a past president of the National Bar, with the two of them, they're stellar lawyers. People often forget, because when they see these lawyers on TV, they just think that they're, sort of fanfare lawyers. Both of those lawyers are real trial lawyers, and they were real trial lawyers trying cases, civil rights cases, before it became in vogue and people were looking at this on TV. With both of them, I feel pretty comfortable that the Justice Department will look at this case. Now, whether the Justice Department will accept it or do anything with it, that's a different story. But we know that they successfully prosecuted the Ahmaud Arbery murder, and who knows? But this is not a murder case. But I think the reason why the charges were not stronger is, fortunately, this young man has survived, but we don't know what that will mean. And secondly, his defense is, and I know we have to brace ourselves for this, he felt threatened by this young man. Now,
by this boy?
I know that many people, by this boy,
He's 16.
by this child. I know, but he felt threatened by him. Remember, when you have these stand-your-ground type states, let's just think about Trayvon Martin. When you have these stand-your-ground type states, or these stand-your-ground laws, or laws like that, there's, and even though I don't think this would apply, if you want my honest opinion, let me tell you why. When he rang the doorbell, evidently there was a glass door. So when he came to the door, when the assailant came to the door and shot him, he shot through a glass door. So it's different if this young man had gone into his house. There was forceful entry. He was confronted. Let's say if he were confronted with deadly force of some sort. That's not what happened. This young man was coming to pick up his sibling. So he merely rang the doorbell, not realizing it was the wrong house, and he was shot in the head, in the arm, intention to kill. So prosecutors, a lot of times, they'll bring charges based on what they feel that they can win, where they can prevail. And I'm not licensed in Missouri, but there might be some interesting twist, I'm told, with Missouri law. But that, to me, does not justify why he's not being brought up on charges of attempted murder. But again, the prosecutors often make a calculated risk on the charges that they can win on. That doesn't mean that he might, once evidence unfolds, he might not be charged with more crimes. That could always happen, but that's what it is now. And I'm hopeful that maybe the Justice Department will look at this case because, we have to think of bias. If a young 16-year-old white boy had come to rang the doorbell, would he have felt fear for his life? There are also other indicators that this was racially motivated. If there's enough evidence where racism or racial bias and other types of biases were the motivating factor behind this shooting, then maybe the federal hate crime laws would apply. Not so familiar with what Missouri has, but what I understand, again, is that it would be a lesser crime, and certainly you don't want to charge a lesser crime, or maybe the elements may not be met under Missouri law. When you have funny laws or different laws in different jurisdictions, oftentimes a judgment call is made so that you don't mess up a case, so you can get a clear conviction. And that is what I believe the analysis was at the time. But, Santita, forget about the legal analysis. This is just a tragedy, a travesty. It's something that the kids can't go to birthday parties anymore without getting shot up. Mass shootings.
Well, I can't ring the doorbell, CK. Come on.
You ring the doorbell. You go into the wrong driveway. I don't know how many times I've done that. I get lost every day. You drive into the wrong driveway. You think, you look, you see, oh, wrong number. And now that is something that is causing people to get killed. And so I think that we have gone crazy in this country. I honestly, crazy. And when we say we, I mean citizens are going crazy. Governors have gone crazy in some states. Legislators are going crazy. Members of Congress, U.S. Senate. I mean, I just feel that there's a desperation and a lack or a void of reason that is rampant in our country. I just, it's distressing. It's disturbing. I have my son. My older son lives in, he doesn't live in Kansas City, Missouri. He lives in Kansas. And he's in Kansas City, Missouri, because that's where you fly out of. And that's where a lot of activities, college activities and social activities occur. So he's in Kansas City at least every other week, sometimes every week. And so, it's, you think about these things happening to your children. And it's just everywhere. We hear, I know the statistics in Chicago are very, very, very alarming. Brandon Johnson has his hands full. His vision is incredible. I'm so excited about his tenure as a new mayor. But he's got a lot to contend with, just as mayors do in all of these urban areas. So this is what we're faced with. Our children are the victims. The laws don't often protect them, but prosecutors are looking for a victory of some sort. And I think that's the analysis that went into the decision on what to charge him.
Well, and I want to mention this young lady's name, Kaylin Gillis. I didn't want to misstate. Kaylin Gillis, 20 years of age. She was in a car with 3 people. They were looking for a friend's house on Saturday night. And this man just commences to shooting. She wasn't even driving the car. And she gets killed. I mean, while there's a racial component in Ralph's case, I don't know if this was a case. I don't know if this was a car with black and white kids. I don't care what it is. This girl should not be dead. I mean, Daryl Jones, help me with this. Because I'm, at the very, thank goodness he was charged with, I think with attempted murder. Well, he was charged with second-degree murder. Good. But that didn't happen with this gentleman. I'm just trying to. You shoot someone in the head. I don't understand that.
Well, Santita, it's even worse than that. It's one thing that Andrew Lester never talks to the guy is the indication from what the evidence is pointing to at this point. There's no conversation. There's no indication there's even a conversation that goes on. Ralph, y'all never crossed the threshold of the door, didn't enter the doorway or anything along those lines. None of that is indicated at this point. And then from there, we know that Lester shoots Ralph Yarl in the head, and then it gets even worse because he then stands over him and goes to shoot him again and shoots him in the shoulder. So, there's no question. When I heard it, I'm listening to it, I'm like, there's, number one, Lester should have been arrested immediately. There shouldn't have been any waiting, any appeal. None of that stuff should
They
have
held him less than 2 hours. Attorney Crump said they held him 20 minutes and then sent him home. Are you serious? Daryl.
It's just incredible. And then
water. They put him up in a lollipop and water. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm going back on you.
No, go ahead, CK. Go ahead, CK.
No, I'm just saying they sent him home, and just think about this. Maybe they gave him some water when he was there so that he wouldn't be dehydrated. I don't know. And I'm just saying how crazy this is.
No, De La Rue gets to go to Burger King. I'm hungry.
And he goes to Burger King. But even beyond that, now that Lester has been arrested and arraigned, et cetera, they set a bail of $200,000. Means that, they're going to post they'll probably find a 1%er and just post 1% and he'll be back out and back where he is. Yeah, that's problematic. There are so many. I have clients sitting in jail today that have done less than that on no bail, and they will not let them out. Where there's no gun involved, where there's no one being shot, no one being struck by bullets. this is an incredible piece as to how Mr. Lester is being treated and how Ralph Yarl is being disrespected. It's the value of the young man's life that I find very problematic right now, because what they're saying in Kansas City, Missouri, is that Ralph Yarl's life, and the attempt at killing him does not merit an attempted murder charge. It does. It does. I don't buy this argument. I don't buy this argument that they only want to charge what they can certainly prove right now. That's not what they do as prosecutors. You charge the entire litany of what you believe the person could be possibly guilty of. You go from the highest to the lowest, and you put it all in there. You put in the hate crime charge. The hate crime might be a lesser penalty, but it has parts to it, elements of it, that the attempted murder does not have. It is possibly guilty of both and have a consecutive sentence. So I don't buy any of that stuff. It goes back to Santita, and I apologize for getting a little heated about this. It goes back to what we're saying about the value of the African-American life. It goes back to what we're saying about being certain you have a prosecutor that values you, and you have a chief of police that values you, because that's what this is coming down to in my mind right now.
Reverend Wilson?
First of all, the thing is, this kid rang the doorbell. He didn't try to break into the home. He didn't yell and scream. He simply rang a doorbell. And even though they're using the stand your ground law as some kind of justification, I think that's what's going to come up for the shooting. All of these things, they're all across the country. At one time, 27 stand your ground laws that impact people like this. So that's the first thing. This defense, even on this stand your ground, wouldn't work. He didn't have a reasonable. Simply Randall was trying to do bodily harm to him. So then he shoots through. So, man, he gets enough energy, adrenaline to run. How is it no neighbors? What community did this old man live in where it's you send him away. He was standing. The prosecutor can't figure out.
Well, help me out with this one.
Shooter would be behind our crime figure on. And we
Dick, please. My brother, Congressman Jackson was put in the back of a car because he was standing outside of a store trying to open. They put him in the back in handcuffs. He didn't know he was going to get home that night. I mean, are you serious right now? This boy was shot in the head. He's shot in the head.
And what was?
No attempted murder. I don't understand that, y'all. I really don't.
No.
No. Hold that thought. I got to go to a hard break because I'm bringing on John Nichols. Hush, everyone. Hush. Back in just a minute.
Okay.
Okay, y'all, when you hear my voice, you know I got to go.
I know.
CK has 2 sons. You can, as a mother, I can't even imagine that. I send my child to pick up his brothers. Oh my goodness! I don't even understand that.
That neighborhood is no different.
neighborhood is that?
But it's no different than many neighborhoods. There are many neighborhoods that will happen all across this country. It's terrible. It's terrible. And let me tell you, this is why it goes back to voting. Because those prosecutors, whoever the prosecutors are, who are making this determination, because all prosecutors do it. They want to have a victory. They want to charge whatever they feel that they can win. But you have to have the courage. You know, some of these cases where they have had victory, it took, almost an act of Congress to get some of these prosecutors to charge. So I don't want anyone to think that this is so unusual. This is the norm with many prosecutors. And when you see prosecutors, how about this? When you see prosecutors who do have the courage to charge someone 34 counts, they become a pariah, and they have congressional investigations. Do we need to talk about
you look at it.
Well, hold on, everybody. I've got John. Hold on, everybody. I've got John Nichols coming up because we're talking about Clarence Thomas, another hot mess, and Julian Assange.
Look.
That's right. That's what cleared up your sinuses last week, CK. That cleaned up her sinuses last week, John. She was sick.
I was feeling
Hi,
something.
we have John Nichols ready to go.
I was going to get back in bed. I want you to know that allowed me to get up.
No, you get yourself back up.
Okay, and got myself together. I had a happy day, but I was feeling some kind of way. Lord have mercy.
It cleared up her sinuses. So
she can thank him for that.
She can thank him for that. But you know what, John? I'm going to let them close out because we're talking about Ralph Yarl. If you want the 16-year-old black boy who rang the wrong doorbell and got shot in the head.
I'm well aware of this. Yes.
Who
Very
isn't?
interested to hear what folks have to say.
It's crazy. Hold on. I'm going to let them give closing thoughts, and then we're going to pivot over to. It's just. Can we get some good news?
No trouble at all.
Help me. 1 minute apiece for everybody. And when you hear my voice.
I know. And so, these topics. I'd love to have some good news. I turn on the TV in the morning, like at 5 o'clock, and I'm off. I'm rejuvenated, and it's a downer. It's just no good news. And you're almost incredulous. We haven't even got to the mass shooting.
Oh, girl, look. And look, Kaylin Gillis, white girl, drives and pulls up. She wasn't even driving the car. She's out with her friends on a Saturday night, 20 years of age. And this man shoots her when they're driving away. I'm like, are you nuts? What is wrong with you?
Yes. We are in some kind of state here.
I mean, how can you look at her family? And what are you going to say? Wait a minute. He wouldn't even come out the house when the police went to get him.
Of course not. He knew what the end would be.
Yes.
Well, you know what I find amazing?
Touch that collar, Reverend.
I feel like he had to come out. I feel like he had to come out the house.
He was out, but they didn't shoot at him.
Nope.
Y'all, this is crazy.
The level of
Back on in 30.
public racism has just risen beyond the pale. Somehow we believe that we had made tremendous progress. And
But
when
we
you look
have.
at these recent incidents, we've made progress with this.
But it's so deep.
Kind of behavior.
Yeah, and it's classism
ingrained in our society.
But it's also, we have to look at this class problem because this is police overreach. Yeah, well, racism is a form of classism. They just feel that they can, folks, but we also, we're so insane, we feel we can shoot anybody. What is that? Stand by, I'm coming up. I'm coming up.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Oh, everybody, we got a lot to talk about on the Santita Jackson Show today. Of course, John Nichols is on with us. We've got Julian Assange. And when are they going to free this man? And Clarence Thomas, when are we going to impeach this man? Oh, no. But we've been talking about Ralph Yarl. And, and my heart goes out to the family of Kaylin Gillis. Just outside of New York City. I mean, this 20-year-old white girl, she's out with her friends on a Saturday night, and they turn into the wrong driveway. They realize that they're in the wrong space. They turn around, and they're leaving, and the man who owns the house comes out and shoots at the car, shoots her dead. The police can't get him out the house to face the music, but they don't shoot him, and they shouldn't have. But are you serious right now? What is going on? What is happening here? How is it that Ralph Yarl gets shot in the head and there is no charge of attempted murder? You can't justify that to me. You cannot. I've got 1 minute for each of you. 1 minute for each of you. I mean, I hear your sinuses being drained against CK, but I'm going to come to you last. Let's go to you, Reverend Wilson, July 15th through the 19th. I know we'll be talking about this issue and so many others at our Rainbow Push International Conference.
Whenever we see these kinds of shootings and the stand your ground law in Missouri, you see the impact of the House, the State House, and the State Senate in Tennessee. It is clear to me that from a public policy standpoint, we have to have a major CK criminal justice forum at our convention. We want state legislators to come because next year we're going to be electing state legislators yet again. And we have to be prepared to move our agenda to change these criminal justice laws that are really reminiscent of post-Reconstruction. Stand your ground so you can, at your home at 80 years old, just walk and shoot through a glass door at a 16-year-old kid who had done nothing but ring a doorbell. He didn't yell at him. He didn't scream. He didn't beat on the door. He rang the doorbell. Then he shoots him twice, and as the kid tries to run for help, no one in the community decides, here's a young man bleeding, running for help, and one person says, get on your knees and put your hands over your head, behind your head. Yeah. How insane is that? And then he passes out, and they said, "Oh, maybe we should now call 911." This kind of behavior is symptomatic of people that have no God in them. This is a godless kind of move, and
Absolutely.
So as a people, we have to deal with that. We have to restore a sense of hope and caring.
Love, everybody.
America again.
Love is a commandment. Where is the love, everybody? Where is the love? I hear Roberta and Donnie. Excuse me, Attorney Daryl Jones, 1 minute, y'all. 1 minute.
Thank you, Santita. And you know it takes more than a minute to get.
I know, but you know what? To be fair, we will revisit this. But there's so many issues, so many life and death issues that are before us right now. I'm trying to get to them. But, and the thing is, you and CK and Jeanette Wilson and John Nichols, you'll see him and CK more. But you all need to be on bigger and bigger platforms. People need to hear that there's some sane people out here offering some sane points of view. So I'm trying to put as many of you up as I can. Attorney Daryl Jones, chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition. What is next?
Well, thank you, Santita. One thing that I want people to remember is that, when we look at the Ralph Yarl situation, it really does emphasize the importance of voting for your judges, voting for your prosecutors, voting for the county executives and mayors that appoint the police chiefs, because they really make the policy decisions in these types of situations. We must also remember this, that Missouri ain't changed too much. Y'all may remember, I know CK knows, Dred Scott. Right, that Dred Scott decision, that principle still stands there, that the black man has no rights that the white man is bound to respect, and that's what you're seeing play out here in this Ralph Yarl situation. Folks, let's focus on that voting, let's turn this around, and let's be certain that there's justice for Ralph Yarl in this situation.
1 minute, CK Hoffler.
Absolutely, absolutely. Vote, and vote for all the reasons that Daryl has said, but there's something else. We have to continue to educate and talk to our children. We have to prepare them for these kinds of situations. I hate that we have to do it, but we have to do it because until there's change, until there are no more, these stand your ground laws are laws that really only impact black and brown people. That's the reality. Whether you're in Missouri or Georgia or Alabama, Tennessee, that's what it is. And we should support those who are fighting valiantly to change the laws, whether it's gun control or otherwise, because of the impact in our community. Because until it happens to your child, I can see my children in that situation. And that fuels a lot of what I do because I can see my children there innocently, going to the White House, knocking on the door, backing up the driveway. They're college-age kids. These things happen. So please, please vote and talk to your kids over and over and over again. We have to prepare them. You know, when it's their time, but we have to prepare them to deal with this type of life because this is the country that they're living in.
Well, and there is that, and we will be dealing with this issue and these issues at the Rainbow Push International Conference. The chair of our board is C.K. Hoffler, and of course, the head of Push Excel, Teen Takeover, and all of these issues, and of course, Attorney Darrell Jones and Reverend Jeanette Wilson. Cannot wait to see you all in July, and Jeanette maybe later on today. But we've got John Nichols. John Nichols, you've gotten an earful this morning. Oh, bless your heart. Wherever you want to go, my friend, and my brother beloved, you can go. I've got a Supreme Court justice who won't let go, and Harlan Crow, I find out, has been collecting Hitler memorabilia. Come on, John, help me.
Well, look, so much has been said today that's so vital, and I think that it's important to pause and recognize that as we move from one discussion to another, we can't just put things aside. We have to recognize what happened, this young man, and what it tells us about our society, and not be distracted from it. And I think that we can connect so many of these things. I think that when we recognize that we have courts, powerful courts, and positions on powerful courts that are occupied by people who seem to be more interested in their own well-being and their own advancement than in doing justice, we begin to understand why so frequently the challenges that exist in Missouri and in New York and in places across this country are not addressed. And so as we look, for instance, at the Clarence Thomas case, this isn't just about Clarence Thomas, right? Although the revelations regarding his actions are quite stunning. It is also about a court that fails us, a Supreme Court that fails us on a regular basis. It does not take up these fundamental issues of justice, right? And justice for people who are threatened, justice for people who are harmed, and frankly, justice for a society in which we still accept a huge level of economic, social, and racial inequity. I mean, this is why we look at these issues. We don't just look at it because we're upset with an individual. Now, as regards Clarence Thomas, what we've learned is, of course, that he has again and again and again failed to follow the basic ethics rules of the court. And I know people make mistakes. I mean, that's a given, right? That people do err. But when you have repeated errors, and they appear to be invariably beneficial to him and not ever detrimental to him, you begin to ask yourself whether this is a justice who has given up on justice. Right?
Well, hold on one second, because they essentially govern themselves, John.
That's right.
I mean, they're answerable only to themselves and each other. And it's a real exclusive club that they've got going, right? I mean, how do you expect them? I mean, look, because we're all human, right? And you, if you know, I see it. You know, when you are ideologically opposite someone, there's a grudging respect at the very least that you have for someone who's in the arena. Okay, so let's just assume that exists, that kind of comity exists on the court, and these people have a healthy respect for each other. Ideological issues be darned. That having been said, they govern themselves, John. So and this man does whatever he wants, and I'm afraid to find out. I'm afraid to peek up under the covers and see what anyone else is doing.
Well, I mean, here's the strike. You hit the nail on the head there, because here's the striking thing, right? We had the initial revelation as regards to Clarence Thomas that he was taking all these luxury cruises, luxury flights, vacations that most of us could never even imagine, right, on yachts traveling around the world, and worth hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, perhaps more. Then so later we thought, also there was a real estate deal where $100,000 or more was moved from Harlan Crow to Clarence Thomas. There was a failure to report on profits made off an investment that apparently didn't even exist anymore, or that was in some sort of gray area. And you realize that, yes, there's probably more revelations next week and the week after. And then you start to say, is it only this one individual, or perhaps are there others on this court who have not been respectful of the basic constructs of a set of ethics that most of us would respect? And then we get to the deeper question. This court has, in the year 2000, in the case of Bush v. Gore, this court decided the presidency of the United States. This court shut down the Florida recount, which was a legitimate recount, a necessary one. Only 537 votes separated the two candidates for president of the United States. This was the determinative state. The court shut it down. And then we find out, Clarence Thomas, his wife, Jenny, was working for the Bush-Cheney transition. At that time, she was helping to identify people to serve in the Bush administration. Shouldn't he have recused from a case involving a candidate with which his whole family was so intimately involved? And we find out that Antonin Scalia's son worked for a law firm that was representing the Bush-Cheney campaign. Should not he have at least considered recusal in that circumstance? And we realize that this lack of oversight, this lack of standards, goes beyond individual wrongdoing, right? Individual self-service. It goes to a point where the determination of the presidency of the United States might be at stake and might be, unfortunately or wrongly, decided by people who should have stood down. And this is the point at which we have to re-examine the court. I think it is important that Senator Sheldon Whitehouse from Rhode Island, who's a real leader on this, has recommended that the Judicial Commission begin a process of examining what's happening with the court as regards ethics and the problems that exist there. He has encouraged the court to take a much stronger stand on ethics. He has also called for the Department of Justice to begin investigating, in this case, Clarence Thomas, but it could extend to others. And obviously, he's pressuring for Senate investigations. I think that is vital. I think it's also vital that in the House of Representatives, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Jamal Bowman, Ilhan Omar, and other members of Congress have said that there should be an inquiry, and it should be an impeachment inquiry, an examination of whether Clarence Thomas should be removed from the court for these severe and ongoing, apparently, ethical lapses. This is important. We're not here to condemn the man without a fair examination, but what we are here to say is that his actions should be examined with an eye toward whether he should continue to serve on the court. And it shouldn't stop with him. If other members of the court are found to have engaged in these sorts of activities, they too should be examined with the same eye. We've got to take a much more serious look at the Supreme Court, because remember, this is the interesting thing. The president faces many rules and restrictions, right? A member of Congress faces many rules and restrictions. And even as weak as the congressional ethics processes are, they at least can be enforced, and they're, in some cases, hopefully, relatively transparent. In the case of the court, that just doesn't exist. And it's the 21st century. We have got to get ourselves beyond a case where we think of the members of the Supreme Court as high priests and priestesses who can do whatever they want. It was never appropriate. Now it is deeply damaging to the country.
Absolutely, but let's pivot very quickly to the Julian Assange case, which gets precious little airtime here in the United States, but it is a global issue. And you said that there is a test facing every member of Congress now. What is it? And just give us a synopsis of this case and why it is so important. It's like a burr in the side of every administration. Every day that he's held, it doesn't make the United States look too good.
No, it doesn't. I mean, remember who Julian Assange is. He's the founder of WikiLeaks. He is the individual who, with others, worked with The Guardian, the New York Times, other publications around the world, many of the top publications around the world, to reveal actions that took place by U.S. troops and others in Iraq that were reprehensible, right? That there was broad global agreement involved, violent acts that should not have occurred. He revealed other aspects about U.S. activities in war zones. And look, this caused a lot of consternation at the time. This is back almost 12, 13 years ago. It caused a lot of consternation at the time. There were many people who said, oh, you shouldn't reveal these things. But the fact of the matter is that what he revealed and what WikiLeaks revealed in coordination with The Guardian, New York Times, and other publications was that the U.S. was involved in activities that should not have been involved in. It was doing things that it should not have been doing in a time of war, and that needed to be investigated. And frankly, also, this is the core thing that the American people needed to know about. We needed to know what was being done in our name, but without our informed consent. Because ultimately, if we are a democratic republic, even when we go to war, there ought to be at least some buy-in from the people. It should be with respect to them, and they should have at least some knowledge of why these decisions are made. And that's what Assange gave people. Now, there are folks who despise him, who hate him, who think he's a bad guy, etc. But even no matter what you think about Julian Assange, what you have to understand is that what happened there, where he got a leak, he worked with that information, shared it with major publications, that's the act of journalism. And if Assange is jailed, if he is punished, perhaps jailed for decades under the Espionage Act, as the U.S. Department of Justice appears to want to do, if that happens, then you aren't just criminalizing what Julian Assange did, you're criminalizing journalism. And if journalism cannot speak truth to power, if it cannot get leaks and reveal the information based on those leaks to the people, for the people to decide whether they want to intervene and ask their members of Congress to take action, ask their elected officials to take action or not, at least the people are brought into the process. That's what journalism should do, and criminalizing what Assange did is a real problem. But now here comes the test. Leaders around the world have said that Assange should be released. Virtually every major journalism group, the International Federation of Journalists and others, have said that the charges against Assange should be dropped. And
why do they say that they should be dropped? Why do they say he should be released? Give me the other side of this.
Well, because if you punish him, right, for what he did, then you will put a chill on journalism in the U.S. and around the world. You will say that someone can be punished for getting a leak of true information, getting that information to the people, and that somehow is a crime, right? If that is criminalized, even if you don't like Assange, you don't just criminalize Assange, you criminalize the basic act of journalism, right? One of the core acts of speak truth to power journalism. And so with that in mind, members of Congress have now stepped up. Rashida Tlaib, the congresswoman from Michigan, has sent a letter to the Department of Justice, the White House, and others, and basically communicated that the charges against Assange should be dropped. 6 members of Congress have joined her, Ilhan Omar, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Jamal Bowman, and a handful of others, and they have said that these charges should be dropped. When I wrote this article saying it's a test for members of Congress, what I was suggesting is that this is a test for the other 428, I believe, members of the House, right? Will they sign on? Will they take this stand for freedom of the press and for a maintenance of journalism, for the protection of journalism? And I encourage people to go to Rashida Tlaib's website or at least read the article I wrote and look at what that letter says. It is a very detailed letter. It goes into all the specifics and all the concerns. It brings in what all these journalism leaders from around the world and in the U.S., editors of the New York Times and the Washington Post and other publications, saying that if these charges against Assange go forward, journalism itself, journalism, speak truth to power journalism that we want to have in our society that holds leaders to account, will be threatened. And so my argument is, and I hope the argument of others will be, that members of Congress should sign on to this. They should put pressure on the Biden administration and on the Department of Justice to drop these charges and to accept that the prosecution of Julian Assange, with all the nuances of the case, with all the complexities of these cases, if it goes forward, it will harm journalism. And in fact, as the International Federation of Journalists says, it will do severe harm. And not just in the U.S., but by the example of the U.S., punishing someone who got a leak and published that information, that damage will be perhaps even more severe in countries that don't have as much of a freedom of the press tradition as the U.S. does.
I've got one more minute before we have to go. What a week it has been already, and it's only Tuesday. What's our takeaway? With Julian Assange, with Ralph Yarl, with Clarence Thomas, the stories keep piling up about him, and I'm wondering what's going to happen. What's the takeaway?
Takeaway is an easy one. We can be overwhelmed. It's very easy. We have to take care of ourselves. We have to pause, step back sometimes, and focus. No individual can solve all the problems of the world, but we have to be engaged with them all, and we have to be aware. And we have to, through our politics, through our activism, do our best, try and bend that arc of justice, or bend that arc of history toward justice. And I think look, I say this often on this show. That's why this show is so important. Just in this half hour, we have dealt with so many issues thanks to your wonderful guests, and we have brought so many perspectives forward. That's essential to what we're talking about. There has to be a daily recognition of the challenges in the world, and hopefully a daily recognition that history tells us it is possible to address these challenges. What we have to deal with is not despair, but hope. And our hope has to be a recognition that, unlike optimism just assumes things are going to turn out. Hope wants things to turn out well, but it recognizes that we have a role in that. Mm-hmm. We have to participate in solving the problems, the challenges of our society. And we can, thanks to the information that you provide every day on this show.
And you. And vote, vote, vote. Get registered to vote. Get these high school seniors voting. Vote, 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 vote. That goes past party, everybody. This is about saving the republic and building a democracy. Vote, 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 vote. See you July 15th through the 19th at the Rainbow Push International Conference. I can't wait to be with you tomorrow, God willing. Thank you, Henry, for a great show. Thank you, Beth. 312-427-2737. Call the UIC Housing Clinic so you can save your home. Love you, everybody. Love you, John. God bless you. Have a great day. Is there anything you'd like to say, you'd like to add before my Facebook audience goes away?
Yeah, I think we concluded well there, I hope. You covered a lot of territory.
Oh, my gosh. The team takeover downtown. This boy getting shot by this gentleman. No attempted murder charge. I mean, it's just a lot.
So, and here's the deal. You and I are friends, and we've known each other for a long time. Yes. And I often compliment you, but I don't do it casually. And I will say that look, you get better and better at this all the time, and that what a wonderful thing, right? And engaged in things for a very long time, and to still be improving, and your ability to manage all these topics coming at you from all these directions, and to keep a steady flow, to keep people focused, and also to give people respect in what they say. And make sure that the people's ideas are coming through. That is the essence of good radio. And it's also the essence, frankly, in the broader sense of journalism. When we talk about the Assange case, but also when we talk about the Clarence Thomas case, and when we talk about this case in Missouri, and when we talk about all these issues, what we come back to is that we have to have reliable sources of information. If we don't have the information and the discussion about it, then we can't possibly begin to solve the problems. And we do run the risk of being overwhelmed by, a world that seems to be going in so many difficult and bad, often bad directions.
Mm-hmm.
But if we have this kind of, common space, right, this public square where we can have the discussion, there is real hope and there is real possibility. And I guess I'd close off by simply saying, we've covered all this territory of late, and all your good guests doing so. Amidst it all, we do frequently reference what happened in Tennessee with these two young legislators. And you can be as frustrated and angry and despairing as the times may, encourage us to be. But we must also look at this remarkable moment where very powerful people sought to silence and expel two young state legislators. Those legislators, instead of disappearing or backing down or being destroyed politically, came back stronger than ever. It is a redemption story that they took this expulsion and turned it into an incredibly powerful political moment, one that has made them national figures, but has also focused attention on the many crises in the Tennessee legislature, and frankly on the reality of legislatures across this country. And so, we have our setbacks, but boy, we also have our moments where new possibilities open up. And when I think about the Rainbow Push conference coming up, I think that, as someone suggested in the last half hour, this is an opportunity to highlight some of these people from around the country. It's also an opportunity to put it in perspective, to recognize that the Rainbow Coalition, this vision of a multiracial, multi-ethnic campaign, crusade on behalf of economic and social and racial justice and the planet, the future, that this has deep roots. And instead of being history, it is something constant. We look at the history to tell us where we came from. We look at what's happening now to tell us where we are. And then we look forward, knowing that there really is an arc, and it really is bending toward justice. Not perhaps as rapid as we'd like, but it is. And we're at our best. Not certainly at our worst, but at our best, we are a part of it. And what a wonderful thing that is.
Amen. Amen. Indeed, if we're not in it, nothing will happen. It works when you work it, everybody. It works when you work it. Even as you look at what happened in Tennessee, these gentlemen had the right to be there. And they fought and fought and fought until they got back. And they have to continue to fight so they can be fully credentialed and so they need to get their committee assignments, which I understand they'll be getting in the fall. I spoke with Justin Pearson yesterday. And we need to apply the political pressure so that these people do not feel comfortable denying them seats on committees, so that they can deliver for their districts. So, there's a lot, but you make the point, John. We're the ones who have to be involved. We're the ones who make it happen.
Mm-hmm. And we should remember that they've come back stronger. No matter what leadership of that legislature does, recognize this. Who does America know in that legislature now?
The Tennessee Three. And the two Justins.
And so, they have been handed the bully pulpit. They're not bullies, of course, but they've been handed the pulpit. They have the ability to speak not just in the narrow circumstance of that legislature. They can speak to America. They can speak to the world. And that is going to have an impact. It already has had an impact. You know full well, if these two young men were not, and frankly, the woman who is
Gloria Johnson.
Yeah, totally. If they had not had this attention, do you really think that the legislature wouldn't have just kicked them out again? They would have, right?
Mm-hmm.
They would have found some other to silence them. That's happened in the past. People have been returned to a legislative body and been kicked out again. This time it didn't happen. Why not? Well, it didn't happen because those Republicans, as blustery and as, seemingly irredeemable as they may be, they recognize the circumstance they're in. They recognize that the whole world's watching. And whether, Representatives Pearson and Jones get the precise committee assignments they should, whether they are, treated with the respect that they deserve. No matter what happens there, they will be in that legislature.
Mm-hmm.
They have been returned by the elected officials in their regions. There will be special elections this year. They will be returned by the voters. And let me assure you, I think those special elections, I plan to go down to Tennessee and cover them. I think they're going to be the most redemptive elections we have seen in a very long time, because I doubt they're going to have opposition, and even if they do, I just think you're going to see a massive turnout, a march to the polls, a lesson in how people can decide who will represent them. Not Republican legislators in Nashville, but people on the streets, in our neighborhoods, in our communities. They get to decide who goes to the legislature. And I think that message is going to just ring out of Tennessee and have a lesson not just for that state, but for states across the country.
John Nichols, inspiring words. That is just what we need. And I cannot wait for you to go down there and for you to do the reporting, because you're going to look for some things that other people don't look for, and you're going to see some things do not see. You're just absolutely brilliant. Your latest book with Bernie Sanders is entitled
It's okay to be angry about capitalism.
It's okay. It's okay. Yep. It's okay. It's okay. Because it's not working for so many people. I mean, and it's been tainted by greed, by so much, everybody. We've got to figure out a system that works for everybody. Everybody in, everybody up. Nobody out, nobody down. Got it? And it's possible. If I win, you don't have to lose. That's why I believe in coalition governments. This I win, you lose, this approach to life, whether it's personal or institutional, is immature. Because in life doesn't really work that way. It doesn't. And it shouldn't. You get a little bit, I get a little bit. We all, we should all walk away at least sated, satisfied. Now, should the winner get the lion's share? Of course. But they shouldn't take everything. Come on, y'all. Be gracious in victory and be magnanimous in defeat. Just my father taught us just take it all. He said, now don't get used to losing, but know how to do it and know how to do it with grace. Just do it. Just do it. Love you so much. Will you be on television or radio this week, John Nichols?
I've been on a lot already.
I know. I'm trying to figure out what else you're going to do.
I've done a lot of MSNBC recently, particularly on the Wisconsin fight that we've talked about so much already. And, lots of radio always, which is a pleasure. I still think radio is the most small D democratic medium. It's the one where, we can talk at greater length and go deeper. And so I love doing the radio interviews. I mean, I really do. I value it. I value it, especially when we have callers, because often the callers are smarter than anything I would say. And so I appreciate this forum because it's the mix of people, the different voices coming in, the way that you, to use the term of the art gallery, is the way that you curate a conversation, right? And draw the best out of lots of different people.
You are so sweet, and you're so flexible. I sure will bring people in from the previous segment, and you're like, well, I'm going to roll with it. So thank you.
Well, yeah.
Right? Oh, no, you don't have to. You don't have to, but you do. You don't have to, but you do. You're a very gracious man, and you always have been.
Oh, well, you're very kind, and it's a great pleasure to be with you.
Look, I don't take it for granted. I feel so blessed to have known you all of these decades. It's been 4 decades plus, and we have to spend more time together. It was great having that unplanned reunion at Kevin's service, but it just made me understand, you know what, we've walked a lot of miles, we've logged a lot of miles together, and we need to spend some more time together because we're family, and that's it.
Yeah, that's a wonderful place to be, and we owe it to the future. We also we'll be together, I think, in Chicago for the Rainbow Push, and I suspect that is a place where there will be a lot of reunions. We're looking now at the incredibly enough, jaw-dropping enough 35th anniversary of the 88 campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, boy, I my reverence for history.
Mm-hmm.
And it just is my view that we have to take that very, very seriously. We have to put that 88 campaign especially into perspective.
That's true.
And to understand that everything that's constant touches that many things were made possible, many things were set in place, many things were begun. And I think all of that is to be emphasized, but also just the sheer joy of that 88 campaign, the lightness of spirit that came when those primary victories occurred in places that were unexpected. And then at the convention, not in victory, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also not in defeat. That convention with that amazing speech, perhaps, I will say it, perhaps the best speech that Reverend Jackson ever gave, because it connected our politics to human beings, to individuals, working class individuals, the people who ride the bus, the people who, clean the offices, people who are in prison, the people who are impoverished, and brought them deep into the core of our politics. I mean, that was a blessing. That speech, and that convention and that campaign.
And to walk out with Rosa Parks on that night.
Unbelievable. Right.
Oh boy, my great grandmother was there, his grandmother, my grandmothers were there. It was just, but to walk out there with Rosa Parks was just, what a moment. What a moment, what a moment, what a moment. And what a time, what a time, because we were all together. And people thought we were a little nuts, but they saw our rainbow family, and it has grown. And now it's the gold standard, not just in American politics, but really in world politics. When the British Parliament celebrated Reverend's birthday, and it was the first time that they have honored, that they have feted a non-British citizen in the history of the British Parliament. And there were people who were far-right conservatives and far-left populists. They all attended the lunch, and they said to a person, when I saw him run, I knew that I could. Several of the people, Tories on the far right, were like, look, I know I understand the Reverend. I understand the Reverend's politics, but you have to understand, as an Indian, to see him, it changed my life, and I could not have him come here and not say thank you.
Yeah.
He changed my life. He said he changed my life when I was in India. He changed my life when I was here. He changed my life, and we all impact each other. And I think that we have to understand that. That's why we have an obligation just to be kind to everybody. As my mother says, be a good person. Because you never know how something you say, a glance, a word, can impact someone's life. Think about that, everybody. Really, we have to really learn to be kind to each other. We really, really do. Because we can make or break someone's day, make or break someone's life. We sure can. We can. And I thank you for making mine, for always being so positive, so kind, so gracious, and so loving, and so rooted in the gospel. That means a lot to me. You are an unlicensed preacher, but I'll leave that alone. One of these days, we're going to be attending your ordination. I cannot wait.
More honor.
I can't wait. Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. But I love you, John Nichols. Is there anything else you want to say before we go?
No, thank you for being you.
Oh, thank you for being you. Always. Love you so much. Love you.
Love you too.
Love you, Morning Star family. Thank you all so much for everything. Thank you for being you, and thank you for getting up with me in the mornings and getting up with each other and looking out for each other. And please, everybody, come to Chicago July 15th through the 19th. We will be celebrating the 35th anniversary of the 88 campaign, but we'll also be celebrating each other being together, because so many of us are. Many of us have gone on just over the past few months. Frank Watkins, I think of Steve Cobble, in the past year, Kevin Gray. I mean, these are people who are iconic in our struggle and who have they're people upon whom we have depended. And now I can't call that 803 number, that 202 number. I can't call. And, but oh boy, they left us with so much. And so, D-Ray, you want me to grab that biscuit? Oh, I'm going to wait for lunch, girl. I love you too, Robert. I love all of you. So please, everybody, share the show today. Share the show and get the book. It's okay to be mad at capitalism, and tell other people to get it. John, of course, wrote it with Senator Bernie Sanders, who came out of the 84 and 88 campaigns. And we're still together. He's still fighting. Oh, God, I love Bernie Sanders. He's just still fighting, and we just love him. And I love you, everybody. I love you, John. Love you, love you.
Love you, too.
Absolutely. God bless you, everybody. Bye-bye-bye. See you tomorrow, God willing. Bye-bye.